Well, thank you, Alan. And okay, so yes, we do have. Speaking of people, we have some of our special musicians who are joining us on this call. And I see Julia Harguindey, our great principal bassoon player, Titus Underwood, our fabulous principal oboe player. Happy New Year to both of you, and welcome. And it's so great to see you. I've seen, I think, a couple of you in person in the last few months, but it has been interesting time for all of us. Oh, I also see Dan Lochrie, great clarinet, bass clarinet player. Hey, Dan, Happy New Year. Welcome. He's joining us as well. So let's start this conversation. And Dan, let's start with you. Uh, can you tell us what you've been up to, how you've been keeping busy musically and otherwise during this whole time?
Okay.
There you are.
Better. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Giancarlo. Good to see everybody. Naturally, you get a little bit of extra time during this shutdown because the schedules are very different. I actually finished a composition for solo bass clarinet that I had been working on for years and never could take the time to finish. So I did that and also played a bass clarinet recital at Belmont in October. And I played it to an empty hall. I never planned to do that. And it is weird. You're absolutely right. We were 12 feet apart. Dr. Bob Marler and I played the concert together, and Catherine Kohler also joined us for a couple of pieces. So it was great to make music, even though it was in an empty hall. And of course, they streamed it and all of that. I've also, of course, continued to teach at Belmont, and I've taken on high school students for extra money. But I used to teach a lot of high school students, and so it's been a few years. So I've been teaching in Brentwood and playing in the quintet. We played a concert last night, 12 feet apart. That was the rule at Belmont. So every one of the quintet players was 12 feet from the next person. And, we played our concert, took our bows, like you said, to an empty hall. So it is strange, but, you have to keep going. At least we're preparing things and, and still making music. So.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, I think we're all very grateful for the opportunity to make it, but to say that it is normal is far from reality.
Of course. And playing together is far more difficult when somebody's that far from you. So
yeah, absolutely. So Julia, for you, what has been the most difficult thing about, during this pandemic, I guess?
The most difficult thing, I think, is when we're young and we decide to be a musician, our entire life is around playing our instrument, playing with others, going up the ladder. And when all of that is removed and we don't have the passion of our life going on, we don't have concerts, we feel the sacrifice we have done to be where we are. I feel very much the fact that I'm far away from my culture, my country, my family that I haven't seen in over a year. So being away for the first time during the holidays, I never spent Christmas and all of that here in the US, and even less here with COVID, sick with COVID alone. So that sometimes can be difficult to not have the reason of getting up in the morning and take my bassoon and go play with my colleagues. And you start realizing, wow, it has been a long journey, and without it, things make less sense. And yes, we communicate with family, but it's different to be alone. It feels very far away all of a sudden.
Yeah. So Titus, what about for you? I mean, anything in particular that you found extremely difficult in this time?
The difficult thing about it is just being in that wave of sound, that initial, just everyone playing together, making music together. I mean, I've done a lot of virtual things. I've been very fortunate to be busy during this time, but there's nothing like playing next to a colleague. I've had some opportunities where I played next to colleagues and things like that, but it's still very, very distant. And it's not the same type of synergy that you have, or that pulse that you feel when everyone is kind of tight in the same place. So that's been the most difficult time, not being able to see family as much, those type of things, being very distant. My fiance, she's a doctor, so I hear a lot of the very harsh stories very regularly. So just keeping safe and all those things, that's been kind of a toll just in general, not just the music part, but also seeing how hard it is for those who are working on the front lines, the doctors that are out there, that we should be very thankful for, that are taking care of so many people who have been ill. So just seeing both sides that have been the most difficult part for me.
Mhm. Well, I also would like to welcome Luke Bryson, our wonderful librarian who joined us on this call. Happy New Year, Luke. It's great to see you.
Happy New Year.
And
Thank you.
so for you, I have a question about, have there been any like new opportunities or something, some new hobby that you picked up in the middle of all this? I know I have.
Oh, absolutely. Well, since I'm not spending every day in the library now, that obviously has left a big void in life, but this has given me an opportunity to do something that I otherwise would not have. I actually recently, well, I guess in August, I started an online master's degree in arts administration to kind of sharpen my kind of leadership and managerial financial skills throughout this time. And even though I greatly miss seeing you, seeing our colleagues here, seeing our wonderful staff members and guests on a daily basis, it has been really great to kind of sharpen and hone another skill set that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do otherwise.
Well, I have to say that I'm very proudly, I've actually found one of my daughter's Nintendo Switch, and I have become a master of Doom Eternal, and I've been killing zombies over the last several months, and I finally reached level 10. So with that being said, Dan, anything outside of music that is helping you carry you through all of this time?
I've watched, like everybody else, I've watched a lot of series I never would have watched on Netflix. Actually leased a car. So, you go out and do things, but it's not the same. I haven't actually developed a new hobby. So maybe I should. I'll take your word on Doom.
Listen, it's a good way to release stress. How about you, Julia? Do you have a new hobby that you found?
Yes, I started dancing salsa, reconnecting with some of my culture, and I used our pop conductor as a for practicing, Enrico. So we started practicing salsa, and I dance several times a week now with my teacher, and it has been a lot of fun, in fact.
How about you, Titus?
I guess I share your passion, Giancarlo, video games, So I think, I mean, all the games I haven't been able to play, I've caught up on that. But that's been kind of my new hobby, to be honest, outside of just doing music things, is video games can take up some very good quality time. And, getting to those higher levels can be quite difficult. So my brain is still going.
Listen, I made it to level 10 last night on Doom Eternal after about 6 months of trying to do it.
There you go.
That guy sitting on the plane, like, using the chainsaw and going crazy, and the guy next to me on the plane looking at me like, who is this guy? So, I'm sure I get a little bit overexcited at times, but it's a great way to release stress. Luke, do you have a new hobby?
Well, when this pandemic first started happening, I definitely began to eat and drink my feelings, and that was not sustainable in the long term. So I've picked up kind of running, jogging, and biking a lot, something I didn't have the time or I guess the willpower to do beforehand. So that has been really lovely. Although I would recommend, if you're going to get into cycling, steer clear of any kind of large debris in the middle of the road unless you want to potentially fracture your arm. So
yeah. Well, last thing I want to ask each and every one of you. Julia, with you, I mean, you have any special hope and desire for the symphony as we get back, hopefully in a few months?
Probably reinvent a little bit ourselves, connect a lot more with the community, have more diversity on stage, our repertoire. Just make sure that now that we have been apart for so long, then when we do reconnect, we make one with our audience and we serve our community.
Mm-hmm. Dan?
It's true. We can't make music like this on our own. All of us are helpless in a way. So being able to get back together and create a higher purpose, really, because I can practice or I can do this or that, but together is where the symphonic music kind of raises us to a different level. And certainly I hope that's true of the audience and of the city as well. So I think let it make us unified. Let the music bring us together, I would say.
Luke?
I certainly agree with that. I think my hope for us is that we'll certainly be more unified down the road, and that you know, we don't take this for granted anymore. Sometimes, you know, a lot of us, we put our whole lives into this, and working in a symphony orchestra is something of a dream, but it is also a job. So sometimes we can get kind of dragged down by the day-to-day stresses, the day-to-day, the workload. But I feel like after this, we're not going to take this as much for granted. And I think it's going to be a truly magical moment when we finally get to be able to play for an audience again.
Mhm. And Titus?
I'm really looking forward to the new things. You know, what we've learned. There's always been, even though this has been a very tough time, there's been a silver lining with the new skill sets that we've learned over time. The time we've had to ourselves to think about the art that we do, how important, incredibly important it is, and what new innovative things we can bring to the stage, and as well being very connected to our community in a much more innovative and meaningful and sustainable way. And I just want to thank, you know, everyone who's here for being symphony sustainers and all the things of bringing us back to the stage. We really appreciate that. And we love your support for us as well. And we can't wait to play for you and play with each other as well. So I'm most of all looking forward to that.
Well, it's so great to see all of you. As I said before, I miss you terribly, but I know that sooner than later we'll be together on stage making music and bringing joy, which I know that our audiences are desperate for that. So I thank all of you for joining us.